Alright, I have a new video for y'all. I am filming the postscript book tag. I was kindly tagged by Grace from Grace Dion, and I'm excited to answer these questions. I'm also excited because I'm kind of still experimenting with camera angles and where I'm filming. I'm currently filming in a new location. I am filming in the sunroom of my house. So I'm inside and that's outside. It's a pretty day, and I thought it would be fun to film in here. Something new to shake it up a little bit. So yeah, I'm filming in here. Has nothing to do with the book tag, I'm just letting y'all know what's up. But anyway, like I said, I'm doing the postscript book tag, and I think this is normally a video that you would do at the end of the year, just to kind of like wrap up your reading year. But like I said, I was tagged by Grace about a week ago, I think. And so what I'm going to do, instead of just talking about like end of the year stuff, I'm going to basically answer these questions from when I started my channel, which was February in last year. So all of these questions are going to be based on what I've read since February 2021, which I think will be interesting, and hopefully I have some interesting answers for y'all. But anyway, enough of the preamble. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So question number 1 is a two-parter. The longest book you read this year and the book that took you the longest to finish. And initially I thought it was going to be the same answer, because the longest book that I read since I started my channel, and what I thought was probably the longest that it took me to read, was Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. Obviously, it's a chunky book. It's book 4 in the Stormlight Archive. I very much enjoyed it. But whenever I get a new Sanderson book, I always try to pace myself and try not to binge read it. But of course, like once you get to a certain point in a Sanderson book, you just gotta keep going and going. But I started off fairly slowly. I read like 1 to 2 chapters a day starting off, and then just exponentially it got more and more. But it still took me a long time to read, not just because it's 1,200 pages long, but also I wanted to try to take my time with it and not rush through it. And yeah, I love Stormlight Archives, my second favorite series of all time. And I always have a hard time ranking this book because I know Way of Kings is my all-time favorite for Sanderson. And then probably my least favorite is Oathbringer. And then, I don't know, Words of Radiance or Rhythm of War. I don't know. What do you guys think? But yeah, I thought this was probably the longest that it took me to read. But the more I think about it, it's probably actually this book, which is Night Shift by Stephen King. Which, if you don't know, I've been running the Stephen King Short Story Book Club. And the way we've been doing it is that we read 1 to 2 short stories a week. So even though this is very short, it's, you know, my copy's like 500 pages. There's 20 short stories, so it took a long time for us to get through it, which I like because we can kind of go at a very chill and relaxed pace, and every week or every weekend we can just talk about the short stories that we read that week. And of course we're continuing with Skeleton Crew, and we're doing the exact same thing, 1 to 2 short stories a week. And if you're interested, and if you haven't signed up yet, go check out the Bookish Charmer Discord. And yeah, right now we're reading along with Skeleton Crew, and we're having a good time with that. But definitely Night Shift took me the longest to read, even though it is significantly shorter than Rhythm of War. We read this very slowly on purpose, so it's probably the book that I read the slowest this year, or this past BookTube year. And question number 2 is a book you read this year that was outside of your comfort zone. I always try to find books and like branch out of my comfort zone, which for a long time consisted only of like a few authors. Like I read a lot of Stephen King, I read a lot of Dean Koontz, I read a lot of Michael Crichton, Ray Bradbury, Agatha Christie. But definitely over the past like 2 or 3 years, I've branched out to different authors, and I found a lot of new favorite authors. But for this one, for what I'm going to talk about, is definitely a branch out, because it's basically romance, which I did not think I would enjoy. But I started reading Taylor Jenkins Reid last year, and I started with Daisy Jones and the Six, which was definitely not outside of my comfort zone because it was all about classic rock and band drama. Absolutely loved that book. But then you get deeper into her catalog, especially her earlier books, and a lot of those are just contemporary romance, such as Maybe in Another Life and One True Loves, which I did not think, I didn't really have too high expectations because I'm like, okay. Her other three novels that I liked, Daisy Jones and the Six, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Malibu Rising, I chalked those up to like, oh, these are historical fiction. No one, that's why I liked them. But these are just straight up romance, and I loved them anyway. I gave this one 5 stars. I gave this one 4.5 stars. She's just a brilliant writer, and no matter what kind of genre she's writing, historical fiction, romance, sci-fi, she's not going to write sci-fi, but no matter what she's writing, I know I'm going to love it because of her characters and the way that she blends characters and just drama and humor into one concoction that's just really fun to read. Like, basically, I'm going to read anything that she writes, and her books are definitely outside of my comfort zone, or at least they were up until now. But yeah, I'm going to read anything she writes, including the new book that she has coming out this year, which I still don't know what it's about. All I know is the title. Carrie Soto is back. Who is Carrie Soto? I don't know. But yeah, so those books were definitely outside of my comfort zone, but I'm glad that I reached out and tried something new. Question number 3 is, how many books did you reread? And I didn't even bother counting because I've reread so many books like since I've joined BookTube, which is pretty crazy because if you would have asked me like 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said that like I don't have time to reread. I have so many new books or new to me books that I need to get to that I don't have time to go back and read all of my favorites. But pretty much like the past year or so since I've been on BookTube, I've reread a lot of books, especially this year because I've been rereading a ton of Stephen King books. Like I'm doing my Dark Tower reread, I'm doing the Bachman reread, I'm obviously rereading his short stories, I've been I've been rereading his novellas, and now I'm doing a Patreon pick where I'm reading like a random Stephen King book every month. And not only that, but I've also just reread a lot of my favorite books from the past year or so, and yeah, so I didn't even bother counting. It's a lot. And then question number 4 is favorite reread of the year. And I didn't really meticulously go through and double check this, but I'm just going to go with a recent reread, and it's my all-time favorite trilogy, so I'm going to go with that. But yeah, I recently just reread The Themis Files by Sylvain Neville with Sleeping Giants, Waking Gods, Only Human. And like I said, it's my favorite trilogy, and I love it so much. I'm definitely glad I got to reread it, because even though it is my favorite, I had forgotten a lot about it just simply because of book amnesia. I tend to forget things that happen in books. But yeah, I had a great time with it. I love listening to the books because the audiobooks, you get a full cast of characters and they're written in epistolary style, so it's pretty much all dialogue anyway, so it makes sense to have just a full cast of characters narrate the story. And yeah, if you couldn't tell, they're all 5-star books for me, which for a trilogy, that's rare. A lot of the times in a trilogy, you get like the first book, which is great, and then sometimes you have like middle book syndrome, and then with the ending to the trilogy, like the third book, yeah, it could go either way, like has a terrific ending or the ending will let you down. But for me, like this series, this trilogy is just great all the way through. Just 5 stars, favorite trilogy of all time. So I'm definitely going to go with that for my favorite reread, although there's probably something else Like Drums, Girls, and Dangerous Pie is like a book that I reread every year. But yeah, I'm definitely glad that I got to reread this. Favorite trilogy of all time? And question number 5 is an interesting question. A book you read for the first time that you look forward to rereading in the future. Now, the obvious answer, which I already mentioned in the video, is Daisy Jones and the Six. I read this book last year and just absolutely fell in love with it. One of my favorite books of all time, probably a top 5 for me. And it's funny because in my review for this book, that not a lot of people have watched because it's probably not very good, but in that review I said, you know, even after I finished it, like I turned to the last page and finished it, I wanted to go back and reread it right then. Right? So I'm definitely looking forward to rereading this sometime this year. I still don't know when I'm going to do that, but this is definitely a book that I could see myself rereading every year because I loved it so much. But enough about my love for Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have another book that I'd like to get to again that was a very big surprise for me. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this book, but it's another book that I wanted to go back to reread, and that would be Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. This book really blew me away with how great it was. I went into this book not really knowing anything about it other than that it was a booktube darling and a lot of people were reading this book and they were really loving it. And I love going into books knowing as little as possible. And I basically knew nothing about the book. And I think that's a perfect way to go into this book. And knowing what I know about it now, it's going to be so interesting to go back and reread everything with context and to see to see how much I missed. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's also a quick book, which helps. It's easy to reread short books than it is like massive tomes. But yeah, it's definitely a book that I look forward to rereading. Hopefully this year. Hopefully I can get to it. But like I said, that's the problem with rereading though. Even though I love rereading my favorite books, it takes up a lot of time that I could be it takes up a lot of time that I could be reading books that I haven't read before, books that I'm excited to read, but you know, whatever. All right, and question number 6 is favorite single short story or novella that you read this year. And probably short story, it's a reread and it's from Night Shift. It's called Quitters, Inc. And probably my all-time favorite Stephen King short story that I remember. Might be like 2 or 3, but for right now, I'm going to go with that. And yeah, Quitters, Inc. is definitely the best short story for me in this collection. And I'm so glad that when I was running the book club, a lot of people loved Quitters, Inc. and they chose it as their favorite short story in the collection. That made me very happy. But if we're talking about a book or a novella, I'm saying, that I've never read before, that's new to me, that I absolutely loved, gotta go with Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. This novella was so much fun, very brutal, very funny, very comical, and I just had so much fun with this. And you know, with the nature of it being a novella, I just sped right through it, read it in one sitting, and it was so much fun. So it's honestly probably my favorite Stephen Graham Jones story, which is crazy because he also wrote The Only Good Indians, which is terrific, and My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is also terrific. Both of those are 5 stars, but this was just so much fun that I'm pretty sure it's my favorite. And this is also one that I could see myself rereading every year, just because it's so short and so much fun. It'd probably be like an annual Halloween reread or something. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was very funny, very dark at times. But yeah, it's definitely my favorite Stephen Graham Jones, and probably my favorite novella that I've read that's new to me since I've started BookTube. All right, and question 7 is Mass Appeal, a book you liked and would recommend to a wide variety of readers. This book I read this year and just was blown away by how much I loved it. It's in the running for favorite book of the year, and it definitely has mass appeal. You'll see why, because a lot of people have already read this book. But that would be Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And yes, this definitely has mass appeal. A lot of people have read this book. A lot of people have loved it and given it 5 stars, like myself. I wasn't anticipating 5 stars just because The Martian, even though I did really like that book, it was more of a 4-star read. I was thinking maybe I would like it slightly more, but maybe like, just slightly above 4 stars, maybe 4.5. But the further I got into this book, the more I just realized that I was just in love with this book. I can't really find too many faults with this book. I think in my review I pointed out like 2 minor things, but like they weren't huge, and just the character work and just there's a specific trope in here that I can't say because it's a spoiler, but I love getting that specific trope in science fiction novels. And then the ending was just perfect. It's rare that you get like a perfect ending, but it just worked out so well, and I think this book has super massive appeal to just a wide range of audiences. I think most people can pick up this book, even if they don't love sci-fi, and just really get something out of this book. Maybe they won't think it's perfect, but I think a lot of people, the large majority of readers, would love this book. So yeah, I definitely think this has mass appeal. And then the opposite of that, question 8, specialized appeal. A book you liked but would be hesitant to recommend to just anyone. Now, this book I loved, but it's very specific to me personally. I would not recommend this to anyone. I would recommend this to drummers. I would recommend this book to fans of Led Zeppelin. And you might have an inkling of what I'm talking about. Excuse me. That would be Beast, which is John Bonham's biography. Now, if you don't know who John Bonham is, he was the drummer for Led Zeppelin. And he's my favorite drummer of all time. Led Zeppelin's my favorite band of all time. So yeah, I really liked this book. But would I recommend this book to anyone? No, because not a lot of people, people like music, right? But unless you're a drummer, you're probably not gonna give a damn. So I would not recommend this to just anyone, right? Like if you're really interested in Led Zeppelin, or if you're a drummer, or if you're really like John Bonham, like I do, I would highly recommend this book because I had a great time diving into his life and his faults and his good attributes and his drumming, and just, yeah, I had a great time with this book. But like I said, I would not recommend this book to everyone, especially a lot of my friends on BookTube, because I haven't come across a lot of drummers. I have come across a few musicians, but not a lot of drummers. And yes, this book was amazing, but it's not something that everyone should go out and pick up. But yes, I loved it. And then question 9 isn't really a question, it's just reflect on your year as a bookish content creator. Goals met, good, bad memories, favorite videos you made. And yeah, I would say overall, like my first year on BookTube was a complete and utter success. And I say that because my main goal starting the channel was to hit 100 subscribers by the end of the year, December 2021. And I hit 100 subscribers, I think sometime in the summer, and I was ecstatic. I was like, oh wow, I hit 100 subscribers, wow. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, I think I'm at like 770 subscribers filming this video now, like almost at 800, which is crazy. And I think my lifetime goal of like, oh, eventually, like way down the road, I'd like to hit 1K. But it looks like I'm probably going to hit that this year, which would be insane. So yeah, as far as goals met, that's pretty great. But then just, that's not even like the best part. Like the best part is meeting everybody and just, especially on Discord, like I have so much fun on a lot of bookish Discords, including my own. Like that was a lot of fun to just make my own, even though I had no idea how Discord works and I had to have Stacy help me with a lot of stuff. But that's been a lot of fun, just doing reading sprints with people and just getting to know so many bookish people and really connecting to people who love books. Because a lot of my friends in real life, even though I do love them, they're not huge book readers. And it's fun to chat with people who actually love books as much as I do. And then as far as favorite videos, I've made a lot of videos that I'm proud of, including my just ranking all of Stephen King's books. That took a lot of work and a lot of effort, and I think it paid off. I think a lot of people ended up really liking that, and I had a lot of fun like talking about my favorite books and just coming up with skits like towards the end of that series was a lot of fun. I think in general too, some of my skits are just so stupid and they're so much fun to make. Like those are probably my favorite. They're just so dumb, but they make me laugh, especially when I'm editing them and I have to like go back and like listen to myself and try to like frame it just right. I crack myself up and it's hilarious. I think another favorite video of mine was the Stephen King book tag, and watching people's own tag videos that they did for that and listening to their answers. That was a lot of fun. And then another favorite video of mine was the author comparison I did, comparing George R.R. Martin and Brandon Sanderson, not only like their writing style, and like comparing and contrasting their writing, but also just them as people, just stuff that I've noticed over the years, just because they're two of my favorite fantasy authors, and it's real fun to see like why I like both of them, even though they're basically polar opposites. That was a lot of fun to make and do a little bit of research for. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun. Just in general, I've had a lot of fun making videos for the past year, and I'm so glad that people enjoy them, because I definitely enjoy making them, especially the silly ones. I crack myself up too much. And then question 10, again, not a question. Tag some fellow bookish content creators. And I think I will do this retroactively right now. But anyway, that is the tag, the postscript book tag. I hope you guys enjoyed my answers. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this video. And if you did enjoy watching this video, please give it a thumbs up. Greatly appreciated. Let me know if you guys have any answers for this. I'd love to chat with you guys about it in the comments below. But anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and the Bookish Drummer Discord. And if you'd like to further support me financially, go check out my Patreon page and see what that's all about. But anyway, thank you so much for watching and have a terrific day. Also, let me know what you guys think of the background here. Still experimenting. Is it good? Is it bad? Tell me!